we will be, for all of the topics today, it's all going to be on matrix. So we'll just be working from there. Let me just open up my chat here. I closed it. Okay, perfect. Awesome. As far as kind of getting a grasp on those three topics, by the way, because we will start first off in our stats tab. There's definitely some intricate stats that you can pull right from here. Approaching it the right way is going to really kind of save you a lot of time. So we're going to jump in there and spend just a couple brief moments. We're going to focus on something that's going to apply potentially to kind of the CMA, something that you might include for your client in that process. Following that, we will jump right into a very basic residential search. I'll show you how I typically look for comparables. Your process may be different. I try to put together something really quick here, but I'll show you really kind of my approach, my reasoning for like starting with that solid base and a good foundation. And it does seem to kind of help make it a much more timely process, because picking comparables can definitely be very, very time consuming. And then we will jump into the CMA tool. Okay, so as far as important disclaimer there, I'm not a property appraiser. When it comes to the adjustments that we're going to be doing, don't put too much bearing on that. The whole idea of looking at the CMA tool is to give you a very good understanding of how to navigate those screens, just because they could be daunting at first. But I just really want to set that expectation. It's more understanding the tool when it comes to all of those like appraiser features and knowing if a bedroom is, $20,000 worth of adjustment. That's going to come from yourself, your intuition, and seeking out some professional advice for that. Okay. But after those three topics are concluded, kind of brings our session together. That's where, as normal, I'll show you absolutely where you can find our video training bank, which has all of the recorded content for these sessions on rotation. And as well, we'll open up for more of a question and answer if there's anything additional towards the end as well. Let's absolutely start with our first topic, as mentioned, was the stats. So let's get right in there. So we'll go to stats tool. Okay, whenever you're approaching this tool on matrix, okay, your very first thing, I know it's you kind of see right away a bit of a criteria page. You start to want to just jump in and make some changes. Whenever you click on stats, honestly, the thing that's going to save you some time, the most important thing, like rule number one, click on customize. You're going to have to customize these stats so that it's finding the right information in the system. So kind of just skip right past this first page for now. Click right on customize. Okay, and there's three different features that are going to make up your customization. And this is actually how you pull up stats inside of Matrix. Okay, specifically these three categories, really just everything comes together with these ones. Okay, so right into stats, click on customize, and then we could talk about the time frame, the type of statistic, and how they're going to be grouped. Okay. So let's go ahead and have a look at the time frame. So you can see a very wide range here. So we can go just year to date. We can choose some specific years. Okay, and we can go even right off like an automatic selection here. We can even go as far as 10 years. And then in custom, we could even change these up even more so. So in custom, technically, we could pull stats for like this last 7 days if you really wanted, or just month to date rather than year to date. Really kind of opens up how much you can do. I'm going to select more of a general one here. Let's go with the past 12 months. So go ahead and select that. Now we're going to go ahead and enter into the type of statistic that we want. So let's have a look here. And wouldn't be too many of these that I would kind of end up jumping into, but kind of trying to come up with something, again, as mentioned, we want something that maybe is going to apply to our CMA in the end, right? We're going to do a bit of a CMA in that aspect. There's a bit of a presentation for your client. Well, maybe you're going to want to do maybe the sale price average. Okay, so that way you could pull in kind of the average sale price for a particular area and use that as a bit of leverage when you go to explain, hey, this is part of why, as things have been moving along in the last 12 months, I'm thinking that, your property is now up to this particular value, and then you're going to use that representation, the graphs that you created, all these statistics to kind of support your evidence. Okay. So we'll go with sale price average. And then grouping. Whenever you use this option, here's where there really are only a couple in here that I would suggest using. Most of these would end up making the graph a little bit strange looking if you chose something like MLS source or anything like that. So honestly, for group by default, it usually ends up being some form of a date, right? You could do like, if I'm on a 10-year range, I would maybe do grouped by the year. If I was on a monthly range like we have here, past 12 months, well, I'll probably group them month to month. So in this case, what I would expect to see is for the last 12 months, I would maybe see like July all the way through to this year's June, right? Last year's July, all the 12 months coming into kind of bringing in June or bringing in kind of probably the end of May at the very least or something like that. Okay. But now we've customized it. We chose our 3. Okay. So next up, before we make any other changes, and we're going to come back here and talk a little bit more about the advanced options and things like that. But at this point, we've already chosen the 3 important criteria. Let's go ahead and hit generate and see what it gives us. Okay, so right off the bat, it does give us a very simplified kind of a chart here. Okay, below the chart, you can see what went in for this information. So it looks like we did get last year's July all the way to this year's June. And it was pulled from 46,000 listings. Okay, making note and kind of keeping the idea that we just ran a search for the open market. So this is going to include all of the information for all of Ortis. Okay, we have like Guelph in here, Niagara, everything that's on the MLS system, where this average, being that the housing prices on average across all boards in Ortis is around the $600,000 to $700,000 mark. If we change this and we change, exactly what we're searching to only include something like Oakville, well, this figure is probably going to go all the way up to like $1 million on average, right? And we're going to see that in a second. But do bear in mind, you do get the graph kind of straight away here, a bit of a simplified bar graph. Okay, and if so you'll see I'm on this tab, automatically puts us on the chart. Okay, if I went to search, right, it would just bring us right back to the criteria section. Okay, and if instead I jumped over to that 3rd one, which is the data, well, then it would give me more of a breakdown month to month so I can get a better understanding. So starting from July, right, and we could see it looks like a little bit of a trend, like it's slowly kind of climbing, right? We went all the way from 588. We really did kind of make our way to 653 or 654,000 on average. Okay, open market here. Something to note for this page as well, if you notice towards the bottom, something that may be very relevant for you is that you can export this as an Excel file. That's what this export as CSV is trying to tell us. If I was to click on this, you know what, may as well just show it to you very quickly. It's not a very pretty table. It's not very well put together. It's just kind of by default, right? So it's something that you're going to have to kind of resize and make it look how you want. But it gives you the data really, really quickly, where you can make some minor adjustments here, make it look a little bit better, and you can create your own graph on here. Where like Excel gives you tons of options where you can create a really nice, meaningful graph to represent your data. And then you could do like all these multiple data sets all next to each other, for example, like here's open market, here's just Oakville, right? You can start to get really creative with it, and you can do this very efficiently and very quickly just by kind of exporting it and making some minor changes. So I'm not going to save that, but you do have that option. Any of the data that you end up pulling and creating, you can just kind of export it really quickly here into Excel. So as mentioned, before we jump into any other information on this page, let's definitely go back to our customize section. I just wanted to show you really quickly kind of more the advanced options here. Sorry, it's actually the style options. So it's just giving you a little bit of change on the graph. If you do like this chart, right, for example, I could kind of save the image as, if I want this image and I want to bring it into my presentation later. Maybe in my CMA, I want to save this as an image and like upload it to be a part of my CMA down the road as like a static page. Well, it could just be like one of the pages that we end up including, right, by kind of saving it to our computer. But you can make this look a little bit different, right? If I was to go, let's go Barry, and let's go maybe a 3D chart. Well, you can make some really quick changes to it, and it'll kind of change the look, right? So Barry was the color, I guess it's more like a kind of purplish color, and then with the three-dimensional plane, it kind of brought the graph in on an angle. Maybe it's a little bit more visually stunning to be part of your presentation at that point. Okay? Remembering that you can manipulate the ones in Excel way more so than this, but you do have some kind of graphing options here. Okay, so let's go to the search section now. So out of the data chart, our third one is search. And here's where we're going to be a little bit more specific. Okay, so definitely whenever I run any kind of search or I'm doing anything with criteria, changing the intricate parts of the criteria is always my last step. Always kind of set up a base like we did here with our three kind of time frame, statistic, and our grouping. We start there before we start breaking down specific criteria. Okay, and that just makes it much easier to kind of understand the flow, the steps, and we're not kind of asking it to do too many things all at once. But we definitely want to specify a location here. So we're going to go Halton, and maybe we'll kind of specify Oakville, as Oakville is going to be the area that we're going to use for our residential search, and in the end, as we go towards that CMA process. Okay, it is selected as sale because we did kind of go with sale price. As far as other information, I wonder if we should break down even more. We'll keep it at that. So let's go ahead and generate and just see how it's changed now that we were so specific, right? No longer are we just like open all of Ordis. This is specifically just the Oakville area. Okay, and we have 3,000 listings that pulled this data instead of the 43 or 46,000 or whatever it was for all of Ordis. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the data. And we can see really, really quickly, it kind of was as we expected, right? Starting at around the $1 million range last July. And on average, we're already at 1.25 million for kind of the Oakville area. So really already some points for, you know, conversation points and a bit of supporting evidence here for when you go and you're trying to choose a adjusted price or what your subject property is going to be worth. Well, you can include some of this information now and, you know, use this to support your claims that you're going to make, right? It's clear that there's a large trend going upwards in the housing market here. And we can see that really, really quickly just from something like this. Okay, we did a really simple one here, but you can spend a bit of time, change some different categories. You can go as far as like choosing specifically which neighborhood you want, right? As much stuff as kind of you prefer to include. You can start kind of really breaking down criteria here, but we'll keep it pretty general here, just to kind of have this graph. Okay. So let's go ahead and one final thing that I will show you is, because we did put a bit of work in, right? Had to kind of choose these options, chose our chart style and what we broke down in the search. Well, there is a saving function that you can make use of as well. Okay, so if we were to say that this was, oops, Okay, maybe that's kind of a long title, but we'll put that as what we want to save this. And I'll just show you where this goes. Okay, so after we save that criteria, you can see it already here on the presets. Okay, I'll just go to the Home tab so you can see it kind of from the start, where that search or where the statistics get saved as far as everything that you put into that search. So if we click on Stats, remember, step one when you're creating a new one is you're going to click on Customize. That's always going to be your first step. But if you have any presets, they do show up on this main page. So you can see we have like OMDREB, average sales by month is like an older one that I had run before, and the new one that we had just made, right? If we ever just really quickly wanted to jump back into that one and generate it, we are literally a click away from that, can go look at the data, and we'd expect that to be kind of our July to June. Looks like does want us to specify this region again, actually. Let me try and save that. Aha, there was a button that I missed. Okay. So backpedaling here, if you remember, we did put in Halton and Oakville. It didn't keep our search criteria, and that was because I just overlooked this one piece. I forgot to select this option. As far as the data, looks like you have two options. You can select just your base or the base that you have for your three kind of customized points. You do have to kind of select this search criteria with preset. So our preset is going to include the sale and the fact that it's Halton Oakville. Let's go ahead and save that instead with that check mark. And if we generate this now, okay, it looks like it even gives us the two options further down the road, but it should give us perfect. Okay, this one's much better with our 3,000 Oakville listings. Perfect. So now we're a click away, right? If we ever wanted to save this image to our computer or copy it, if we're going to drop it into like a PowerPoint or anything like that, it really is easily accessible. And we have something that we can use down the road if we wanted to in our CMA, for example. Awesome. So that would be our stats tab. Going into our next topic here. So how I explained and kind of the process that we're going to take here is having a look at what a cart is, how you can make use of it. It's a little bit more of an advanced feature. So we're going in with kind of the assumption that you're comfortable running your residential searches, that you understand those screens a little bit. I'm not going to dwell too long on that, but I'll bring us into a cart and I'll show you kind of the reason for that. It just really makes the process of starting up and working through your CMA a lot more efficient. I really, really do like the use of carts for that. So let's go ahead and just like any CMA in general, it's always going to start with a search. So we're going to jump into the residential search here and keep it quite basic. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do here, and if I do see some kind of familiar faces in the chat, if you've been to one of my previous sessions, you'll know that whenever I approach this search tab, there's always one thing that I do right off the bat, and it's zeroing out my price. Okay, my whole reason for that is when you go to the bottom here and you have 5,000 plus matches, I'm going to zero my price so that all the matches go away. Okay, now I have nothing. Just gives me a really easy approach because the approach that I like to take is very visual. I always start with the map. Okay, so putting a zero on my price just means that I could jump into the map and there wouldn't be all of those pins for all of Ortis, right? I'm not seeing like properties now in like northern areas all over these different spots. There's not like thousands and thousands of listings in my way. I can just really freely zoom in and zoom out on my map without thousands of listings and pins all over the place kind of distracting me, right? As you can see with the zero. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take that zero away once we've set out an actual location on the map itself. Okay, the area that I chose for the sake of this training is kind of this little block of Heritage Way here in Glen Abbey. Okay, and what we want to do now is we want to draw something on the map so that this is the only area that is being considered for our search. Okay, we're searching for a subject property, in this case just because of the training, as well as some good comparables for that property. Okay, so a couple different ways here. You notice all your drawing tools towards the top here. There's 4 of them right across your top toolbar. Okay, we can draw a radius. Okay, we can go over here and draw a bit of a polygon if we wanted, or like a freehand polygon if we wanted like just a really specific section. Okay. So definitely the drawing tools that we're going to be making use of, right? If I wanted just this block of Heritage Way, I can draw a circle around it. Maybe I'll go with the polygon just to be a little bit closer. I know it's a bit more of like an oval or like a bean shape type of block here. So I'm just going to kind of quickly draw a bit of a perimeter around it with the polygon tool. Perfect. Okay, what you'll notice is now this is the only section, right? We have the option of either including or excluding the shape. Well, if we include the shape, the only thing that will pop up is, first off, things that meet our criteria and are within this boundary. Okay, and that's what I really like as whenever I start a search, it really is like my first step here is as soon as we get into the criteria, I put a 0, I go to the map and I draw the location where I want to pull data from. Okay, and then I just jump right back to criteria and we can go ahead and take that 0 away. Okay, so if we go to the map now, right, all I did was take that 0 away. Looks like already, right, we didn't change any criteria, so we have potentially some sales, some leases perhaps, right? Nothing's been altered in here, but the only place that something can actually land is in the perimeter that we drew. Okay, and that's what we wanted. Just to be able to draw this without all the noise and the thousands of different listings that were there, which really gave us that functionality by putting a 0 here in the price. And then we just came right back to criteria and took the 0 away, where we landed our 2 matches. Okay. So let's be a little more specific now. Now that we've set out our area, we know where we're looking for properties and what we're about to kind of set up here. Let's maybe be a little bit more specific. So I know we didn't land any condominiums in there, but this is going to be more of a freehold, so I'll just kind of select it there. And we're going to go with sale to kind of get rid of that other match that came in as a lease. So let's go ahead and just go look at the map very quickly here. And this, in the end, is actually going to become our subject property. Okay, we're going to use 1386 Heritage Way as the property that we're going to kind of find some comparables for and make those adjustments to, in this case for the training. Okay, let's go back to criteria. I'll leave this active. It is just the one property that's been tracked down. Now when it comes to finding a comparable, well, I want them to be roughly in the same area, right? Certain things are going to come into play. I want them to be close by. They're going to want to be generally pretty similar as far as like how many rooms or bedrooms, bathrooms. Hopefully they're kind of in a similar price range, right? Of course, the adjustments are going to take care of any kind of discrepancies there. But most of all, our comparables are going to be properties that sold in the market recently, right? What this is showing us, if I select sold closed here, this is giving me any property that went to the closed status in the last 6 months or the last 180 days. So from today's date to 180 days back. Okay, and just by, we kept our active status. Now we're just opening up our sold closed. And let's go and have a look at the map and what's been added on now. Okay, so now we have some properties here, right? 1.6, 1.4, 3 properties between the 1.3 to 1.4 range. Okay, and we're kind of like at 1.48 here. Well, what I may do in this case is, right, I might kind of just pull the edge of my map to get rid of a couple of them. Okay, so I got rid of that one. Maybe I'll get rid of this lower end one as well, which is kind of 3.05. Okay, so in this case, made a tiny change here, and if you look, well, we have like a really nice kind of spread of which area we're looking for here, right? Our subject property being highlighted in green, and then we have our three comparables, all kind of in the similar price range, all in the same type of area, all kind of nearby blocks. Only two of them are right on Heritage Way, it looks like. But this is the information that we're going to use as a base to start our actual CMA. Okay, and where we're going to go now is into the results tab. Where we're going to have a closer look at how we set up the cart and how that cart gets pulled into the actual CMA itself. Okay, so we have a subject, three comparables. Let's go into the results tab and have another look here. Okay, so now we can see a little bit more about what's going on. So we've got, okay, we have three different property types even. So we have a Toronto shared listing. We have a listing that was put up by an OMDREB member. And then we have a Hamilton shared listing, XH and the TW. And yeah, lucky enough that we have a really nice range of the different properties being shared in here. Just something to note, and that we're definitely going to address in the CMA, is this square footage information that's missing. Okay, and the reason for that is because a Toronto listing agent, when they go to put a property up on Stratus, square footage, just specifically in this category, is not mandatory for them. Okay, so when you see shared listings that don't have square footage, it's probably a Toronto listing. They include their square footage possibly in a different place, like maybe it was in the remarks that they kind of threw in some details about it, but it's not mandatory. It's more of an optional kind of selection where we, for all of Ortus, you have to put in, if you remember from inputting, you must put in the square footage and even kind of specify the source, whether you got it from builder's plans or public records, whatever the case may be. But we'll kind of make a bit of a change there so you can see how to approach that. Looks like we have a little bit of a range here, 4 and 5 bedrooms, as low as even 2 full baths and 1 half bath on this 1379 Silversmith Drive, it looks like. But really good. We have our 1386 Heritage, which is our subject, and we have some good comparables here. So what we'll do is, since we are, just for the training purpose, we're going to use this as our subject property. Okay, let's actually go ahead and kind of enter into this one. I'm just going to copy this MLS number right now. Okay, I'm just going to kind of select it, right click, hit the copy option. That way, once we go into the CMA tool, we have our subject property already ready to go. Just have to kind of copy it over. Go back to member single line display, and actually, rather than discard it, because we do have the option, we can go refine, we can kind of just discard it. Maybe I don't want to discard it. What I'll do is I'll just get rid of the active status now that we've copied it. Okay, so get rid of that one so it just kind of gets hidden without getting discarded. We'll just kind of hide it by removing that. When we go right back to our results now, it's only showing us the sold ones in the last 6 months that were within the bounds of our kind of silly drawing that we ended up with here. Okay, but now we're going to save these into a cart. Okay, so we can use them all at once when we go to kind of drag them into our CMA. And how you would do that, you can see the cart option right down here. First, we're going to want to select them. So it tells which ones are actually going to go in the cart. In this case, it will be our entire selection. All 3 of them are going into the cart. Okay, and we're going to create a new cart. In this case, I think I deleted all my carts just to make it easier to see what we're working on. Let's create a new cart. Okay, we're going to name this, hopefully I'm spelling that right. Hit cancel. 1R, okay. Heritage Way CMA. Awesome. So we'll save that here. And if you remember, we did kind of copy that MLS number before. So this is our subject property. I'll just kind of drop it into our title anyways so that we have it. In case we ever forget that it's copied or we end up copying something else and we lose it, well, our subject property here has been copied into our title. Perfect. So we have the Heritage Way CMA, this is our cart, and that's all we had to do. We can see that our cart has 3 listings inside of it. Okay, if we go to our Home tab, we'll see that selection. There is a widget. Okay, it's not in our additional. Looks like we do have it already out on screen. Just remembering that any widgets that you have, if they're closed out, you may have to look around a little bit. So if it's in the additional tab, you may have to just kind of pull out your carts. But you can have a glimpse, a little bit of a preview at the different carts that you do have. In this case, the only one we have is the one we just saved, Heritage Way CMA, holding that MLS number, and it's got 3 properties in it, 3 listings. When we click on it, it's already ready to go. Our cart has all 3 of them in it. Perfect. Okay. So if you think about some of the steps we took, and really getting that solid base is what's going to make your CMA as efficient as possible, right? If you, before even looking at the CMA tool, if you have your comparables are set out, you know what you have in mind for your subject property, right? That's gonna save you so many headaches when you jump into the CMA tool. Because if I was to just start the CMA tool from a just blank, right? If I run all my searches from the CMA tool, I might have a little bit more trouble navigating those screens. Where we can pull this information now really quickly once we get to the part where we need comparables. When we need our subject, we already have it copied, right? Setting up some of those steps to save you time down the road is really going to go a long way. Okay, when it comes to your CMAs, it is something that you have in your My Matrix menu. Okay, you have a few ways of starting a new CMA, for example. Okay, you can come into this section, My Matrix, My CMAs, and you can create a brand new one here. Okay, another option would be you can create a CMA from just listings that you have. So if I was to just jump into this section, you'll notice there is a bit of a CMA option here. So if I wanted to select something and click CMA, right, I could start the process from there. We're just going to go with the really general one here, right from our My Matrix. We're going to click My CMA, and we'll start a new one. Okay. So we will be working through these tabs, again, trying to get more familiar with what these look like, because yeah, these tabs can be a little bit daunting. Just a couple things to note, right? We want to get a good idea of where we're at, get our bearings. So first off, it's very much like the input tab, where remember, you're not locked into anything right now. Okay, if I wanted to jump to my comparables and deal with that right now, I can jump ahead. I don't have to start right at the beginning and take a one-by-one linear approach to every option here. It's just like an input. You can jump right to the realtor section and do your commission structure first. You're not locked into this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 type of thing. Okay, so know that you have a bit of freedom there. Okay, notice that it does autosave as you are kind of working through. Okay, you have this little save option if you want a bit of peace of mind as well, but it is saving as you go. It'll tell you kind of exactly when's the last time it's saved. Typically, if I'm not mistaken, it's like if I move in between screens, that's when it kind of refreshes this. Okay. We are going to set up a contact. Okay, the CMA is going to be for a particular client. And something definitely important to note is the little disclaimer at the bottom here. Okay, so it tells you right on that first page of your CMA that it will only be saved for 6 months, okay, from the last modified date, and then it will be automatically deleted. Okay, this is important, right? If I creating a CMA that maybe I want, 3 months from now I want to have a look at it, or 8 months from now I may want to pull some information from it. Okay, don't worry. Just understand that this is for kind of storage purposes. But all it's based on is this auto save. I'll show you afterwards. You can refresh this extremely easily, right? A CMA could be 3 months old. All I have to do is open it, literally just hit the save option, it'll update, and you'll have a brand new 6 months. Okay, just to get rid of the redundant ones. If you made them on the system and you're not using them, well, they will automatically kind of go away, but just know you have that 6-month window with CMAs. Okay, and let's definitely start putting some information in. Okay, so we'll set this as, I'll just use myself as a client, so we'll just, Eric in this case is who it's for. A bit of a description. If you wanted, you can put some information here, right? We can kind of, if we wanted to put our MLS number of our subject, or if anything that you want to put as a note for yourself, you can kind of throw it in there. Help you when organizing. If you do have many CMAs on your, My CMA screen, well, a little description might kind of help you there. In this case, I'm not going to put any kind of additional information. It's totally optional. Okay, when it comes to pages, something to notice. First off, I have 4 that I have kind of auto selected here, and these I forgot to remove. It's just because once you've selected the pages and you've had a look at the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like, well, there is an option to save a default. I'm just going to hit restore default here so that it looks more like yours. Let me see. Looks like the 4 that are there, it wants it as the default. If I clear them, okay. Looks like it really, really wants that. Okay, so these are kind of more of the defaults. But for the pages, how we're going to approach this one is, well, there's in fact a very wide range of different pages. Okay, if I close them all out, you'll notice that's when the things start to come gray at the top here. If you have no pages to work from, you're not going to be able to continue on your CMA. But what I want to do in this case is I want to add every single one. Okay, which is a little bit excessive. You'll see there's quite a few of them, something like 30 different pages that can be included. Okay, but what we're going to do is we are going to add all of them. That way, when we go to view them in the preview near the end, we can choose more the ones that are more meaningful to us, and then we'll set that as a default so that next time we enter, it'll be more like those 4 that I had, the ones that that we find might work for us a little bit better. If you want to add pages, okay, the available pages are on the left. The pages that you select are going to go up on the right. Okay, you can either click on every single one individually. Okay, as you can see, I clicked on cover sheet and cover sheet with a photo. We don't know yet what the photo is talking about, so we're just going to put both, and then we'll get rid of the one we don't like down the road. Okay, if I wanted to include everything inside of a certain topic, I could just click the title, right? So if I click on subject adjustments, it would put both of these into my selected pages, right? Comparables, static, and then our map. So this is all of these options together make up everything in the system that you can include, all the defaults. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's going to end up being like 30 pages or something like that. Well, we're going to preview it and get rid of the ones we don't want. Just really good to get familiar with what these are, what they look like, and then you can approach them a lot better. And just keep the ones that are going to be meaningful to your CMA presentation. Okay, so let's leave them all on. So we selected really every single one here. Okay, we'll definitely talk about static pages. These are pages that don't change, they just stay the same, right? Some of these are going to bring in information based on what you enter, right? Like based on the adjustments you make, these are going to be changed a slight bit, okay? But let's have all the pages and we'll work from there. Okay, so I have a bit of a question in the chat. What should we do if properties are listed on OMDREB, not all listings on OMDREB? Yeah, well, if you remember, one of our comparables is a property that was shared in from TREB. It had a TW, so we are able to use that. You're able to use anything that's on the matrix system, right? Because we have that exclusive data share in Oakville, Milton, and Halton Hills, right? We're picking a comparable. It's got to be close to our location. In this case, we chose Oakville. So definitely we're going to be able to see Toronto listings in that area in Oakville, and we can bring them in. Anything that's available on the system, you can pull in. The only difference might be some of the data that's different in different categories, right? A TREB agent, as we saw, it's not mandatory for them to put the square footage in, so we're going to make our own changes to it to make sure that that's more comparable when we go to bring it in. And I'll show you that in a second. Okay, but you can definitely, like, as we're using an Oakville comparable, a Hamilton comparable, as far as the boards are concerned and who put them up, there's a Hamilton shared listing that we're using, a Toronto shared listing, and then an Oakville listing. Those are our three comparables, which is very diverse for one specific CMA here. Okay. Our next section, so remember, we added all of our pages. We're going to omit them as we go along. The next section is the subject property. Right? What are you bringing in as a subject property? Is it a property that was listed on the market previously, or is this a blank one? Right? Are you type in the subject property fields manually? Well, if it's never been up on the system, maybe it's like a new development, or maybe someone's lived in it for 40 years, right? Well, if it hasn't been on the system, you're just going to go enter them manually. No worries there. It's really the same exact process. We're going to drop in the MLS number, and you'll see really all the categories are very simple to kind of work through. If you remember, our subject property, we did copy it, so we should be able to kind of just paste that MLS number here. Right? It is a property right on Heritage Way. It was like 1368 or something like that, Heritage Way, and we can fill from it because we've already found it and we kind of copied it in. Okay. Right? If we hadn't found this property just yet, well, instead of just dropping in and hitting fill, we would hit this search option. We would go search for Macross property to autofill the form. Well, when we click on that, it's going to just put us in a section where we search for a property, which is what we did already. We searched for this one, and this is the one that we're kind of working from. So we'll use this MLS number, okay, just the one that we had copied in, and we'll hit fill. Okay, so 1386, I messed up the numbers. We have, right away it pulls in kind of the main photo that's attached, and a whole bunch of criteria. Okay, so just bear in mind, we're not going to keep all this information. Okay, definitely things like the price, we need those to go away because we're going to come up with our own price based on adjustments that we're going to make, right? So let's get rid of things like that. We definitely don't need the remarks section. Let's have a quick look. We need everything about the address here. That's fine. We definitely don't need the MLS number anymore. We can keep residential, freehold. Don't need that. Price per square foot can go away. Okay, built in 1990, doesn't need this. Okay, here we go, fully furnished. Okay, talking about the bedrooms, bathrooms. Okay, a whole bunch of information here. And one important one that we know we want to make a little bit more consistent, if you remember, we have square footage for this one because this was put up by an Oakville member, and it's mandatory to when you're doing the input to put in square footage. Well, what we're going to do is maybe we'll create our own here. We're going to call it square footage. Okay, hit save or hit OK. Maybe we'll make it look exactly the same actually. Here, I'll just copy that over. I'll rename this square foot total, so it looks more similar to this one. But what we're doing is we're putting in a custom field here. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put in 3,769, which is our square footage, just like what we have here. But what's going to happen is it's going to allow us to put in a square footage total for our comparables now, for the one that was blank, the one on the Toronto listing. Okay. Just want this one to look a little bit different actually. So I'll just put a 2 next to it so we know which one we're talking about. We have our square footage total, and then our custom field with the 2, which I'll refer to a little bit later on. Okay, your custom fields as well. Okay, maybe there's going to be something like, okay, maybe a pool. In this case, let's just go ahead and say that, what's the easiest here? Let's go with no. Okay, so we'll say that there is not a pool on this one, but maybe some of our comparables, when we go to adjust the price, we'll just throw in that, yes, maybe there is a pool, right? Or here, you know what, I'm gonna put it as yes. I'll put yes, that there's a pool at this property, and then we'll kind of adjust our comparables to match as though they want to be to the price here of this one with a pool. Okay, you can put up any of the additional criteria here, a lot of custom options that you have. You can put up to 6 of them. Okay, and you can even save them as a default so they're ready to go on your next CMA. But what a custom field is just something that you're not seeing straight away on these main features, because all of these features are the ones that are going to become your adjustments in the next stage. Okay, you're going to attribute a dollar value to pool. Since this one has a pool, maybe a different property does not have a pool, one of your comparables, and you're going to adjust it by whatever the amount's going to be, like $30,000 to match or $40,000, however much a pool is worth. That's what we're getting to, right? But we'll put these 2 custom ones just to kind of give us something additional to work with as well, because these you'll probably have some custom ones for your own properties and your own CMAs. But all that seems to be the right information that we kept for 1386 Heritage. We'll leave it at that. Okay, and let's kind of move to the next step. So I'll jump into the cover. Not too much I'm going to change here. Right, for your contact, you will have more information. You'll probably have really like your contact's address, their phone number. I'll just put in okay, I'll just put in our main office in Oakville. Okay, perfect. It does pull in that subject cover photo. And the next step, right, our comparables, right? We're kind of trekking along here. We're into our comparables. And if you remember, we absolutely have this information ready to go. We pulled in a cart, right? At this point, if we had started with nothing, we could still do it. We can add from a search, right? We would just kind of click this option. We would start looking for our comparables, right? It just makes it a bit tougher. We're into a CMA trying to get this done, and now we're going to go run a search. You know, probably going to save you a lot of time if you get your comparables done when you can just focus on those comparables earlier on and put them in a cart like we did, right? Really frees up so we're not worried about missing options or anything like that. We're at this point where we can just add ours from the cart, right? The only cart that we have is the Heritage Way one. It's already ready to go. If you have a whole bunch of carts, right, you just have to choose the right one. We can go ahead and select them once again, and then we can add selected. Okay, even gives you kind of sorting options. You can move these around a little bit if you don't like the order that they're in. Fine with how they are. There's just 3 of them, and let's add the selected. Okay, added 3 comparables. Perfect. If we added them from a listing, we would just go search for them, select them, and we would add them in. We just had ours ready to go. And if you remember, it's right the one that's a Hamilton shared listing, a Toronto shared listing, and our Heritage Way one, which is a Ortis member or an Oakville member that put it up with the 307 number here. Okay, so we already have our comparables. Nothing else to change on this screen for now. Everything's going to happen more on the adjustment screen. Okay, our next step is just going to be a preview of the map. Okay, we got a bit of a summary here where we have our subject and our 3 comparables that we're going to be working with, all kind of neatly in this kind of square formation that we have. Very, very close by neighborhoods. 2 of them even right on Heritage Way, for example. And we're going to go into our adjustments. Okay, here's where the bulk of your work is going to end up. Okay, again, understanding that we're really just trying to understand the flow for how these screens look like so you're more comfortable. But these adjustments really don't put too much bearing on the numbers I choose. You're probably going to want to seek out some professional advice from like an appraiser or something like that. You're going to want to choose have some background evidence for why you chose certain figures. Things to notice on this screen. Okay, you can see this is this comparable or the adjustment screen that I prefer to work from. It gives us our subject property at the top and our 3 comparables where we're going to make our monetary adjustments here. Okay, this is one of the 2 views that you can work from, however. Okay, I'll just show you this one. The next one is called detail mode, and if we click on that one, instead you would be running your comparable one at a time. So from your subject to your subject property versus your comparable, and it does them one at a time. Okay, if you like this view much better, if that's easier to work through, right, then you can go ahead and select them this way. What I'm going to do here, does it let me make any changes here? Doesn't look like it. Okay, well right, if I wanted to change a certain thing, I could do it right here, 1-to-1. And then if I go next, it would be my subject property still with my second comparable, and so on. I would do all 3 one at a time. That's detail mode. Or you can view them in the single line mode. I just really prefer this one because it stacks all 3. I can action all 3 at the same time. I find that it's just a little bit easier to work from, so I'm going to use this one here. But just know that option's there. If you like the other one better and you just want to do one at a time, no problem. Okay. Of course, when you're working on this, you're probably going to have some things printed out in front of you. It's not going to be just the one screen, right? You're going to try and make it as efficient as you can. But let's go ahead and make our way to maybe something that we will make an adjustment for. Okay, awesome. We'll start with the bedrooms. Okay, and something I definitely want to bring to your attention on this screen is when you're making adjustments, there is something called a feature value. Okay, so if we attribute a value to a bedroom in general, right, something like, whether the case may be, maybe $30,000. Well, when you go to enter that information in a feature value, it will automatically attribute that to everything across your comparables all at the same time. Okay, so in this case, as you can see, what's happened here is, well, Silversmith was it closed within the last 6 months at 1.46. Well, since it's 1 bedroom less than our subject, we have added that onto the price to make it more of a comparable property to our subject, so that we can come up with a really good value when we go to choose that amount, right? Same thing over here. We increase the price of Sadler Circle by the price of 1 bedroom. Okay, so we did a feature value in this case. Keep making our way through. Okay, bedrooms below grade, this just means there's a bedroom in the basement. Maybe not anything to adjust there. Brings us to bathrooms. So for a bathroom, and if you are taking notes, bathrooms are the ones that typically I stay away from the feature value just for this one. Out of everything, you can use the feature value however you'd like. Bathrooms, I don't use it as much. The only time that I work with a feature value is when my decimal is identical. Okay, and the reason for that is just mathematically, it doesn't know that this is a half bath. It's just going to multiply it by this decimal, right? But since they're all the same, we can definitely attribute a feature if we wanted to, right? If we were saying that a bathroom was worth something like $20,000, well, it would make the change across the board. Okay, I'm just going to take that away. Again, I'm not using the feature value just because of the system can get a little confused. If there was a property that did not have a half bath, right? If it was, if this was a 3.0 and then this one is by any chance, if it was a 2.2, for example, well, right, it would think that the 20,000 needs to be multiplied by the 0.2 and it would give it an extra 20%. So instead of being 20,000, right? It would come through as like 20,400 or whatever the case may be, or 24,000, right? So just be careful with your feature value. In this case, I'll just enter them manually. If every one of them is worth 20K, let's just enter them in to make that adjustment and make them more comparable to our subject. Okay. So just kind of reading through a comment here, the CMA is limited to OMDREB listed properties, cannot be used to CMA properties listed in Toronto or Mississauga or other outside Oakville, Milton areas. That's right. Yes, because this tool that you're using, which is the CMA tool, is on Matrix, right? So the only thing that you would have access to is all of the listings for all of Ortus, right? If you specify that, if you're trying to create a CMA for Toronto, you're going to have to go pull data from Stratus and do it in that system for whatever CMA tool they've provided you with. But if I wanted to create a CMA in this case for Guelph, well, Guelph is a part of Ortus. I can create a CMA for Guelph listing. I can create a CMA for a Niagara listing if I want. It's not just OMDREB listed properties. It's anything that the system is able to give you, which for Matrix, it's all of Ortus. So bear that in mind. But yeah, Toronto, I'm not going to go make a CMA for downtown Toronto. That's something that only Stratus is going to be able to show you. You're just not going to have any data. Okay, so you have to bear in mind that this tool is built within Matrix. You can only access things within Matrix when you go to create this. Absolutely. Okay, but it's not only OMDREB. It's all of Ortus. I can create. I can go to the intra matrix and I can go create one for the Kawartha Lakes. You just have to have data to work from, and then you can use your CMA tool. Okay, you can create one for cottages up north if you want by using intramatrix. But Stratus is very different. We're not looking at properties in Toronto. We're not going to be able to create a CMA for a property in Toronto. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll keep on going with some adjustments here. Okay, maybe you're going to adjust a price a little bit based on the type of heating. Okay, parking spaces, garage, right? If we were saying that we had a garage in this case, maybe this is like a custom one that we would make, right? The data came through that there's looks like 2 garage spaces here. Maybe this does change kind of our idea a little bit. If our property has a 2-car garage and there's no garage for Sadler and no garage for Heritage Way, well, we'd be making a bit of an adjustment here, right? Let's put an extra little bit in here, right? Work through here a little bit more. Perfect. It brings us to our square footage, okay, where we know Silversmith Drive is a little bit blank here. Okay, and that's the whole reason why we created this custom category where there's square footage, the second one, right? Since we don't have something and there's no display coming through because it was a Toronto shared listing, still in Oakville, right? But it was a shared listing from the Toronto board. We don't have a square footage amount, but we can enter one in. So what I'll do is instead of making my adjustment here inside of the square foot section, I'm gonna make my adjustment here in the second one, the custom one that we created. So we'll just write a couple things in here. So we have 2673 that we're gonna put right here, 2673, and 2855. Okay, and what I'm gonna do here for this one is I'm gonna make it really, really comparable to what we have. Right, you're going to go into the listing, of course, and you're going to find out what the square footage is for Silversmith. In this case, I'm just going to say that it's very, very similar. Maybe I'll just put like 3,800, for example. Okay. Again, I'm making up this number. You would go into Silversmith. You'd go have a look. You'd find the description of what the square footage is. but I just want to show you, you can absolutely have it included, and this will pull through to your CMA for the actual presentation. Okay, so if we attribute a value here, right, maybe we want to say that square footage is like $500 a square foot, for example. Well, we could put pretty close to, it looks like 50K here if I'm doing my math right, and like 48,000, whoa, for this one. And here we wouldn't really put anything. We might do like minus 2,000. It's not very much of a difference, but we are more square footage than ours, right? So maybe we will just put something in so that we can represent that. Okay, we've gone and made quite a few adjustments in this case. The very last one that we have is the custom one that we put in for a pool. Okay, and we can go ahead and say maybe this one does not have a pool, this one has a pool, and this one does not have a pool. Okay, and we're gonna set up some prices for that. So here we wouldn't make any kind of adjustment. And then if we say that a pool is, I'm gonna choose a really extreme number here, just because I want our numbers to look a little bit better for the training. And now you can see they're much more consistent across the board. We have all around that 1.5 million range, for example, right? Well, we've gone through, we put in some adjustments, we came up with a good average for those properties right in that area, and that's what we did. We changed the closing price to match what we believe Heritage Way should be listed at based on these adjustments. Okay, again, really, I know I've said this a lot, but always kind of seek out, some professional advice on what you should choose for your comparable price. These are very, very made up. Okay. So when you get into your pricing tab, yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for joining us, Karen. No problem at all. I know out of all the sessions, this is the one that goes a little bit over the 2 o'clock range. I'm just kind of going to be concluding this shortly in the next couple minutes. But thanks so much for making it out this afternoon. You do have a pricing section here where you can enter some information. Okay, we've done all of our adjustments, right? We can see some figures such as our average after we made our comparables and all that kind of stuff. Okay, we may base that value on the amounts that we see. Okay, so we might put something like 1.530 million, something really close to our average that we're gonna have some supporting evidence for. Okay, but you don't have to put this in. You can keep this blank if you wanted. I'm just gonna copy it. Right, if I wanted to keep this blank, to tell you the truth, I do hear that a lot of members keep this blank before sharing it with their client, just not to give them the answer straight away, right? If you were going to send this CMA over email, well, maybe you're going to verbally want to tell them this suggested listing price after you've given them, your presentation of the CMA or something like that. But you do have a spot where you could put in your suggested list price. That's all that really happens on this page. Any additional notes if you wanted, but just with that, you make your way to the finish here, and that's where you see a little bit of a summary of all the pages. Okay, here is the part where we are actually going to have a look at these pages. We're going to get rid of the ones we don't want. Okay, all that's going to happen here in this finish tab when we go view CMA. Okay, it generates a PDF version just as an additional tab here. So we still have this open. It just creates a little bit of a PDF. Takes a second because we have so many pages in this case. And we're going to have a quick look. So it looks like it's 27 pages in total. We're just going to do a bit of a one-to-one look at what's going on, and we'll take them away as we go. So if we go back to our pages, right, remember that on this screen, here's what makes up our 27 different pages in our CMA. Right from the start, if we remember, we have a cover sheet and a cover sheet with photo. Okay. If we look at the other PDF, we can go ahead and look at page 1. Okay, this would be cover sheet. It's got details of our subject property, the main image pulled through, our contact details came in. Okay. And if we go down a little bit, we would see page 2, which is our cover sheet with photo. So notice the only difference in this case is that backdrop, right? It put a little bit of a blueprint in the background. That's the only difference here. Okay, that's something that's preset, but we just have the case where we're picking one or the other, whichever one you prefer. If you find that cover sheet with a photo, that little blueprint to be distracting, get rid of it. The blank background is the one I'm actually going to just kind of omit here. And I would just select cover sheet and remove the selected page. So now we're down to just cover sheet with photo. Okay, and we would move on to the next one. Right, we have summary list and price adjustments. So let's look through those. Okay, so we have summary of comparable listings. List price, sale price, bit of data here that's coming through. This one, just in this case, I might omit it because it's not displaying. If you remember, it is pulling in the custom, it's pulling in just the general information, which has this blank because it was a Toronto shared listing. Maybe I'll go ahead and we'll get rid of the summary. I know that this square footage is going to come through on a different page down the road, so we will remove that one. Then we have our CMA price adjustments. This page is going to give our subject property. In this case, we can see 2 of our comparables, and then our third comparable now down towards the bottom here. It is going to put in the information that's been altered. So here we see there's 2 bathrooms, a difference of 2 bathrooms. Well, this is stuff that you're probably going to be explaining to your client, right? These are the adjustments that you made. You're going to have to decide if it's something that you want included, so they could see this straight away, right? Well, we adjusted this by 50K because of the square footage, the pool, a pretty extreme number, right? Just kind of decide if you want your price adjustments to be in. As we said, we're going to get rid of the summary list, but we're going to keep the price adjustments. So far, we're just keeping these first 2. Okay, let's have a look at the other ones under comparables, which goes from minimums to pricing recommendation right here. So we're going to have a look at all these all kind of at once. These are everything that has to do with the comparables, minimums and maximums, days on market, list price. Then we have a pro report. So just kind of making a mental note of which ones we're working with. Okay, we decided to keep these comparable ones. Okay, really good question there. So everyone, is there a list of the prices for bedroom, bathroom, pool prices, adjustments? If you're referring to what you should be using when doing a CMA, no, it's not something that there's like a standard that you can kind of just refer to. Really is that part that I keep mentioning. When you're running a CMA, you're unless you have some background or some training as far as like property appraisals and that kind of thing, this isn't really like just something you can pull up and know that, hey, a bedroom's worth 20,000. Well, you're definitely going to want to seek out some advice for that, or some if you can get in contact with a property appraiser and learn what makes up that price, well, that's all going to be part of your own research, your own intuition, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, no, there isn't like a set amount, right? A bathroom's not supposed to be 20,000. You're going to have to get that information from just really good research and speaking to the right professionals on that. Okay, so let's have a look at our pages here, minimums and maximums. Okay, maybe not something very significant. Okay, number of days on market just shows our 3 comparables, right? Maybe that one we're going to get rid of as well. So now we're starting to see some that maybe these illustrations aren't so good. Gives us an idea. We can have a look at these pages. We looked at 3 of them. Now we're into the pro report. Okay, it looks like the pro report starts with information on the comparables, including the remarks, which we don't really need. These are just comparable properties, right? Not too much vital information just yet. So I'm not super moved by the pro report. We're probably going to end up omitting it. But have a look through here. Really, you're just trying to choose if these pages are kind of meaningful for you, right? Okay, and a brief summary of the compared listings. Some information that we had from before, and then our pricing recommendation, right? You can see that this is where we had put in the 1.53 million, which is what you're going to be presenting to your client, right? Whatever amount that you chose, and that's going to be based on all that evidence and kind of how you're going to bring up that information. So we will keep the pricing recommendation, but I think the other ones were not super meaningful. So minimums and maximums, all the way down to CMA brief. Just going to go ahead and remove them now that we had a quick look at them. Okay, we're going to keep pricing recommendation though. So it puts us at 3 so far that we are going to include on our CMA. The next section is static pages. Okay, so really important to understand that these static pages from activity and activity versus timing all the way to what it takes to show, these are just PDFs that are in the system and available. Okay, you are going to want to take some time and look through these just in case there is something that you like to use for your presentation. But the important part to understand here is these aren't going to change based on your comparables. They're just static PDFs that have been put into the system. Okay, so if you look at this and you find the effects of overpricing, for example, well, this is just a general image that has some information on it. If it's relevant to your presentation, you might include it. If not, really, these static pages are not going to be changing. Okay, right? Importance of pricing. What's going to happen here? Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to remove the static pages. Okay, definitely, again, from your preview is where you're going to be able to look at them and see if it is meaningful or not. But I will take them out, which leaves us just with the map. Okay, so what I'll do is because we made quite a few changes here, I'm going to go right back to the finish. I'm going to hit View CMA one more time. Now that there's only 4 selections, so it may end up being like a 5-page or a 6-page, depending on how many of these options are multiple pages long. Looks like only one of them are, so we have a 5-page CMA now, starting with cover sheet with photo, if you remember from our pages, right? We should be going into price adjustments, which looks like it's a 2-page section. We have our pricing recommendation page that we kept, and just our map, which was our last option, which was kind of a good visual of exactly that location where we chose these, including our subject and our 3 comparables. Okay. Something to note as well, you can pull in your own PDFs. So here's the part where if you, at the beginning, if you created a really good graph or a chart that you saved on your computer, just save it in, create a PDF version, right? Put your own branding on it, however you'd like. Well, you can upload that and it can be part of your CMA, right? We would just hit the upload option, we'd select that file, and it would become one of our one of our selections here. We would just kind of bring it in and it would be like a 6th page that we have on our CMA here. Okay, what I'm going to do though is with these 4 options, I really like kind of just the 4 that we chose. So I'm going to set this as a default. Okay, so this is now our default moving forward. If we create a CMA, a week from now, it's going to hold these 4 more meaningful ones. Now that we've, looked at the ones that are here and chose the ones that work a lot better for our presentation. Okay, so now we will absolutely hit kind of more of the save option. We'll just kind of timestamp it right here at 2:17. We saved it, and if we wanted, we can now email it out. So our CMA has kind of been completed. We could send it to ourselves, send it to our client, whatever we'd like. But this preview right here is what we're sending out. So if you're done with all that information, this is what it looks like for kind of anyone that you send it to. And then you would go ahead and, of course, when you have a second, do a bit of a presentation to explain your whole reasoning. Okay. So let's go back to the Home tab. Really just going to go into a bit of a conclusion for the session here. I know there's quite a few different tabs that we jumped into and different content, but just kind of to bring it all together, think about the three main topics of how we approach the tool itself. Okay, we started at the beginning with our stats tab, where we created some custom statistics, right? If we wanted to, we could jump in there, we can pull in this Oakville average sale. Maybe we can even refine it a bit so it's only that Glen Abbey neighborhood, or maybe something that's more meaningful. Maybe we end up finding that we could pull a statistic that says that, hey, properties are up near the 1.4, 1.5 million average in that area, and it ends up being a selling point for our CMA. So you've got really good stats you could work from. Okay, next up, we did a bit of a residential search, starting with the actual map. We drew on our map to choose our location. We found some comparables and we put them right into a cart. As soon as we had a cart with our comparables already set out, that's when we jumped into our CMA section. We started the CMA process and we started to kind of manipulate some of that information, that base that we created at the beginning, to save us some time as we work through that utility. Okay, and from there it was really just more understanding the screens. Hopefully you're a lot more comfortable when you go to approach the CMA tool, because it could be a little bit daunting at first for sure. Okay. As a final thing, what I'd like to show you is if you are a little bit newer, if you haven't attended one of these sessions before, I'd like to show you where you can access the video training bank, because as today as well, I have recorded this session. I'm going to go ahead and upload it in the coming days to the OMDREB website. And where you go for the video training bank is just that. It's omdreb.ca, and it is in your members area. So if you click on members area, you just log in with your OMID and password. It should look very, very familiar, just where you go for things like your tax documents and things like that. Well, in this left-hand menu, you do have a video training bank, and you can see all of the topics that we have recorded webinars for. So you can jump in. If you want stats, carts, and CMA, as you can see, there's a couple versions. You can do a 60-minute, 120-minute. Looks like today we went kind of in between the two. Tried to get it my best to do it in 60, but a lot of content to go through here. But you can jump into one of these and just have a peek, right? If there's something that you want to just review in here, well, you can go in, select area, and start looking at that particular topic, for example. Same thing, all of these recorded webinars are available, as well as some of the events that have been put on by keynote speakers and different events that our events department has put on. Well, the ones that they're able to get the recording for are available right here, and you can watch them at your own leisure as well.